Okay, order in the court, order in the court. I don't really like a lot of strife or conflict or fighting. I don't like violence unless, of course, we're talking about the Unique Toys War Panther. And he is the fourth member of the combiner known as Warlord. Naturally, this is a guy that we want to take a look at as we continue focusing on iterations of the Transformers character of Predaking in 2018. This, of course, is a third-party representation of the beloved character of Rampage. And he is one of the most interesting of all of them, because he hasn't had a price drop at all from his original release. Stick around and we'll talk about why that is and if it is warranted in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. I'm so pleased that you have stopped by again, and I'm going to ask you to like, comment, share naturally, and of course, right now, more important than ever, to please hit that subscribe button, show me a bit of love, and while you're at it, check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor, spend some time on the channel, see what it is that catches your interest. Lot of things to explore, and we're going to get into exploring this guy right now. Here is an example of a figure that was released as a set and completely retained his value. Why would that be? Well, I've already talked about ones that we could look at more in light of being a close association to more modern day official deluxe class Transformers. This guy did and does typically retail for about $85. That's crazy when he is only as big as this. And I see the argument for why he's probably not worth it. Of course, he may be worth it if he's part of an entire box set that comes at a reasonable price. But on his own, typically he still garners his original price. And in terms of accessories, we may find at least part of the answer. After all, he still comes with this fantastic hand because this guy turns into an arm. He still comes with a sword, but he comes with a little something extra that everybody on his team can enjoy. We're going to talk about this in just a few minutes. Is he worth what is being asked for him? Well, I'll let you be the judge of that. We'll take a closer look at everything to do with this guy. We'll come back here and kind of clue things up as usual, or as what's becoming usual. So let's get over to the table and focus on this guy. So do you notice anything different about this guy? Yes? No? Stick around because there is something just slightly different, and I'll explain why that is when we get to it. He obviously has the most unfortunate and unlikable of names. This is, of course, the War Panther. And he does come in a box, so we're going to focus on that for just a moment. And I want to note something sort of interesting. So taking him out of it, we have, of course, the box here. It is a fair size with beautiful artwork. On this side, we don't really have much of anything. On this side, we learn that Ironhead is about ready to crash anything, whatever that means. And then on the back, of course, we have the product shots and a bio. But I'm not going to read through this one like I did with the others. Here's why. Because when I did it for the others, I did so based on it being reprinted in the instruction manual. That doesn't happen here. It's not in his instruction manual. Mostly because that page is taken up with something else. So let's start looking at what he comes with and see if we can figure out why that page is missing. Well, I can't in good conscience neglect the ever popular collector card, now can I? It's printed on the same beautiful sort of plasticky cardstock as the other ones. On the back here you can see that, you know, Generally, he's pretty average, middle of the road, except for a couple of stats there. Moving on. Next up is this gorgeous sword. Again, gold and black with a little bit of red. I kind of like the gold and red interplay down by the handle and the sort of detailing down there. I think that it turned out absolutely fantastic. He does hold it very well, so it looks stylish and it is effective. I'd call that a win. And just like the other arm, we have this hand that accompanies him. Again, complaints about this spike and this spike being too long. I guess you could cut them off. I kind of dig it. For the fingers, we have ball joints at the hand. We have hinges at the first knuckle and the second knuckle. With the thumb, we have a hinge at the hand and a hinge at the first knuckle and second knuckle. We have kind of sharp claw-like detailing for the fingers, which, considering this is Predaking, you know, a predator, an animal you think of with claws, I think it matches. I do, however, wish that the fingers themselves were staggered in height. They're not. They're all the same length. That's a little unfortunate, not exactly realistic, but hey, we're talking about big alien robots. Maybe realism goes out the door just a little bit. Then we have two of these. And you might ask yourself, what is this? Well, these are the cannons that go on his shoulders. They can rotate forward, backward. They're both molded exactly the same and they look fantastic. And just so we're clear, he can hold them in his hands if you want, but why would you want that? It isn't where they belong. They, of course, take their proper place of prominence on his shoulders. That being said, you can rotate them forward or backward or whatever you want with them, but I think the intention is for them to be angled up straight. Why did I say you wouldn't want to put him in his hands? Well, this is one of the reasons, but there's another, and that brings us to his last accessory. An accessory for everybody. And we have a bunch of bits and pieces. Why is this important? Well, let's get into it. You see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 pieces. I've mentioned before that none of the other figures in this line came with a blaster. They all came with swords, but none of them with a blaster, until this guy. So why would they come with this guy? Because they go together to make Warlord, or Predaking if you will, to make the large arm cannon that he is well known for. Of course, the argument could be made that it belongs on Dive Bomb, which is the other arm. Not this guy. Still, sometimes we make allowances and we take what we get. This is a beautifully molded black piece. It has red detailing in here. I assume they're missile pods. I really do not know. Then we have this piece, and it can get smaller. It can extend. If you pull it out too far, you'll pull it all the way out. Again, we have a peg down here. Any of these guys can hold any of these in their hands. I'm sure that they're intended for specific ones, but that's neither here nor there. We have 2 of these. They're smaller, and they would go held this way. And they have pegs not only for the handle on the bottom, but on the sides as well. And there's a reason for that. And finally, we have this piece. It's a solid piece. We have 2 pegs here. It could probably go shoulder mounted, or it could go held back here. They look glorious. I mean, they're all painted in a fantastic silver, except for the parts that are black. And where the red is applied, it's applied crisp. It's applied crisp and well. Okay, so, like I said, this goes together. So how does it go together? We take this piece and this piece. This is where we will start things. And we put them together. Now they don't peg into one another. So how do you hold them together? You have a slot here and a slot here, and you take this piece, the one that I mentioned that has 2 pegs on it, and it goes on top. So we put that piece in like that, and then this piece comes down underneath and goes pegged in like that. You can see the length of it. Now, we also have a hole on the side. We take these side mounted ones and we insert one there on that side and here on this side. In the end, we have a huge cannon for Predaking himself. I love the look of this thing. I think it's fantastic. In terms of how you incorporate it, well, you have one black peg here that's a little bit longer than anything around it. That will go into the arm once we get the War Panther here in arm mode. And speaking of him, let's get back to him and we'll revisit this a little bit later. And here he is, once again next to the Transformers Power of the Primes Deluxe Class Slug. My custom painted version that I looked at in episode 343. And you can see that again, he stands at about a deluxe class size. And unless you're new to these parts, you know by now how we're going to measure this guy. We're going to look at his paint apps, posability, playability, and transformation. Now, I've been really trying so far to kind of look at these guys as typical deluxe class figures. That will not work here because this guy, in general, is retailing on his own for $85. Is this an $85 figure? Well, when we look at his paint apps, the first thing to note is that the Decepticon symbols on the sides of his chest were added by me. They were obviously not there originally. In terms of his look, well, if we go by the animation, which is difficult to do because of all the variation there, he's close but not quite right. There should be more orange, most notably on his arms, and his face should be basically completely green. The visor, the faceplate, the whole thing, and a slightly different shape. Either way you cut it though, I don't think that that is the way that we can grade these guys because of that variation. It's just not going to work this time around. So we come to his toy representation. How accurate is this guy to that? Again, extremely. We have the gold on the sides with the red head in between and the gold eyes. We have red arms. Granted, this guy has black fists. He should have orange fists. Going down the front of the leg, instead of so much red, I guess it should be more black. And there's a couple of extra details here, like on his lower shins we have silver, on those knees we have gold. The gold is kind of accurate, but the lower shins not so much. The black feet are though. Overall, I love the look of this guy. You know who it is. But that being said, it's probably the least accurate of the bunch. There were more liberties taken here, I think, and for that reason I'm going to score his paint apps at a 7.75. They're good, but they're a little more liberal than any that we've seen so far. So what about his articulation? Well, he makes a dandy arm when we get to it, and his Panther mode is pretty great. In this mode, well, we have a head that can go all the way around. It doesn't look up or down. We have shoulders that can freely go all the way around and feel nice. They can go out to the side about that far. Not perfect, but okay. We have a bicep swivel. We have a very deep elbow, maybe even double jointed. Yeah, double jointed elbow. Nothing much really at the wrist. We do have a waist swivel, which is excellent. We do have toe tilt, which is also nice. His legs go out to the side about that far. It's a little squeaky getting there, but he can do splits respectably well. We have a thigh swivel. We have legs all the way out to the front and all the way to the back. We have a nice deep knee. It's A soft ratchet? It's a bit strange. Nice deep knee to 90 degrees. That being said, here's my one issue with the guy. The legs are loose. Now, don't get me wrong. When you stand him up, he's fine. When you move the legs, they feel fine. When you take them, out to the side, they feel good. But when they're just sort of straight there, even forward, like, it's not falling. It's not that the leg joints are loose. It's just when you have them straight down in the kind of normal standing up, not even in an A stance position, they do sort of wiggle. And you notice it a little bit when he is an arm. I don't know if I'd want to trust him with the weight of the sword. But I suppose if he has that big cannon on him, we don't really have to now, do we? By the way, I'll point it out now. Again, we have a combiner peg here on the back. I tend to just leave it out all the time because otherwise it is really tight to get out. Let's say that his articulation is very effective with a couple of, oddities in the hips. Oh, and I didn't notice it really until now, but there's a red mismatch between the hip and the upper thigh. Another reason he gets a 7.75 for paint apps. What about the articulation? It's all there, really. You can score some dynamic poses with the guy. I'm going to give it an 8 because I would like to have those hips just toleranced ever so slightly better. They're not bad, don't think I'm saying that, but they could be just ever so slightly better, especially when we're talking about a big price point like this. What about his transformation? Well, let's get into that and put him in his Panther mode first. To do that, we lift the Panther head out, we take the robot head and it flips into the body. We bring the Panther head up, straight off the chest, and we see if I can explain this. You bring it straight up off the chest, and then there's another hinge here. So you need to extend it out, and then bring it all the way up over. And then turn it around. It's a series of strange hinges there, to be sure. Now, on the side here, we bring out his paw and rotate down his side of his leg, I guess it's the thigh of the animal. We take the toes and flip them down straight. Take the toes, flip them down straight. We do the same over here. We extend this paw and bring it all the way down. Then we come here. And on this leg in particular, we bring out his tail. It makes me a little bit nervous because the tail is a really thin piece of plastic that has, a hinge here and a hinge here. It's hinged in a couple of places and it's thin plastic. We peg the legs together to make the body. Just like that. And we collapse. Just like we've done all along with ever so many of these. Okay, the guy's coming together. We bring his shoulders down. We face the arms down. We rotate at the bicep. And rotate at the bicep. Now, if you are anything like me, there's a panel right here. When it is tabbed in, it is extremely hard to get off. I needed to wedge it out. I would say to you that you might not want to snap that in. The friction holds just fine because you need to get it out so that you can flip the fist up inside and bring the front paw down. Close it. And then over here, lift it up, fist inside the arm, paw down, and close it. And in the end, boom, you have a Panther. And it's a respectably decent, convincing Panther, I think. I like it. I wish that the tail felt a little better to me. It's not that it feels bad, it's just I do worry about stressing that thinner plastic. Maybe it will never happen. The back legs, they can move forward and back, not out to the side. We have, I guess a knee you would call it here. A couple of hinges actually, because the leg can go forward that far. You can bend it back that far. The feet, they can move. The tail I already talked about. He still has his waist swivel. The head can go left and right. The jaw opens and closes. He can look up a little bit though. That's really because of transformation. Full shoulder articulation. We still have the elbow as we did before, and the front paws move. There's a ton of it here, no doubt. And he looks good. It's not hard to get into this mode either. Even sliding the thighs closer to the hips is fine. There's no issues. It works well. Let's get into his last mode, which of course is going to be his arm mode. So for that, we fold the legs up again. Fold all of that up. We extend the legs and we take the tail and we bring it up over straight in between both of these sections. It stays there just fine with friction. We turn, actually before we do that, let's bring the head back, turn it around, and then using the couple of joints that are here, one down here and one up here, we angle the head so that it's back down over the chest. Then we need to deal with these sections. There's a couple of ways to do it. I personally like to bend up the entire elbow since it's on a double hinge. And then on the ball joint that's here, I bring the arm down and inside the crevice, kind of behind the chest plate, down by his ribs, we'll say. I might need to open that up slightly, get that in, and close that up. Same on the other side. All the way down, folded up. And this is what we have now. Of course, we have the combiner peg out back. We turn him at the waist this way so that we can take advantage of the double elbow bend. That foot isn't quite in where I want it to be. There we go. And now that I've got things slightly reoriented, you will notice that we have a rectangular space here and here. Just like before, we take the hand of the combiner and we use the two tabs on the side of this black ball peg and we slot it in there and we close the other leg around it quite securely, holds in really well. And then last but not least, for this particular arm, we use the black peg that's there and the hole that's right here, and we attach that huge and menacing arm cannon. I love the look of that thing. It might be on the wrong arm, but I don't even care. Excellent articulation with a double elbow and technically a thigh swivel. And we all know how the hands move. They can also rotate up and down and bend in like that. It's very, very effective as an arm, even if a little bit squeaky. Of course, all of that being said, what do I score his transformation? None of it is hard at all. It all works pretty well. Honestly, I'm going to give the transformation, other than those panels on the forearms being a bit of a pain, I got to give the transformation a relatively high score. I'm going to give it, again, about an 8.5. This guy's an 8.5 overall, but he's 8.5 as a deluxe class figure. Does this kind of accessory here, or set of accessories, if you will, really warrant him being $85? I don't think so. He's good, but he's not that good. I like him as a deluxe class figure, but he's not one I would overpay for. I certainly wouldn't buy him on his own. If you're going to kind of go for this guy, if you're going to go for this particular incarnation of Predaking, you really got to go for the whole set at once. Because buying them a piece at a time, you're going to end up encountering this guy. And I think that he's just not quite what you would want for the price that's being asked for him. And maybe that's just me, of course. Price value comes down to your personal choice. That's just my assessment. I like him. I wouldn't overpay for him though. And so there you have it. We're back here. He's an arm, and it's an alright arm. I don't have any real issues with it, other than the waist and the hips kind of creak and crack a little bit. And that does at times make me nervous, especially since he needs to support the weight of this rather large cannon thing, which, of course, should be on the arm of Warhawk, or Dive Bomb, if you will. Still, it looks glorious. I can't, however, recommend that this guy get picked up on his own when you're looking at $85 US. I can't do it with a clear conscience. I like him, but I like him as a typical deluxe class figure. No more, no less. And does this extra set of accessories here really warrant him retaining the full cost of admission? I don't particularly think so. He's good, but for that price, he's just not good enough. And that leaves us with one. I'll say this though, if you're gonna have this dude, make sure you get him as part of a complete set, not by himself. Anyway, let's take a look at the leader of this group next time and see how he fares. And then of course we'll get ready to put them all together and build one massive combiner. Stick around because things only get more interesting from here. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for giving me some of your valuable time, and of course, let me know what you think of this guy. Hit that subscribe button and help me along if you will. Thank you very much. And the only thing left to say is thanks for giving me some of your very valuable time, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together for another visit right here inside the videos.